The cabin was silent, too silent until the sharp, cold voice of a flight attendant shattered the uneasy calm. "Sir, you're going to have to leave this aircraft immediately." All eyes turned toward Senator John Kennedy, who sat near the front, confused but calm. No one could quite believe what was happening. A United States senator being kicked off a commercial flight was not something passengers saw every day, but there it was. And what made it worse was the smug look on the attendant's face, as though she was savoring the power in her hands. Kennedy stood slowly, dignity in every movement. He wasn't yelling, wasn't arguing, and just quietly asking, "And what exactly is my offense, young lady?" The attendant, a self-proclaimed liberal activist judging by the rainbow pins covering her uniform lanyard, raised her chin defiantly. "Your comments, your policy, yes, they make people like me feel unsafe. This is a safe space, and we don't tolerate hate here." Gasps filled the plane. Passengers shifted uncomfortably, sensing this was no longer about safety but ideology. Kennedy's eyes swept across the rows of stunned travelers. He nodded once, grabbed his coat, and calmly said, "If standing for what I believe is grounds for exile, then so be it. But remember, you're not just silencing me, you're setting fire to freedom itself." With that, he walked down the aisle, passengers whispering in disbelief as he exited. Outside in the terminal, Kennedy sat on a bench near the window, watching as ground crew bustled around the aircraft. He felt humiliated, not for himself, but for what this said about where the country was heading. He thought about the passengers still on board, ordinary Americans just trying to get home, forced to witness such open hostility disguised as virtue. But just 7 minutes after he was forced off, something utterly shocking happened. The loudspeaker crackled, and frantic voices filled the terminal. The plane Kennedy had just been removed from was experiencing a critical systems failure. Mechanics rushed, flight attendants panicked, passengers were hurriedly deplaned. Within minutes, the airline's computer systems crashed entirely, grounding their entire fleet across the country. Social media lit up like wildfire. Hashtags about censorship, karma, and the Kennedy flight incident were trending within the hour. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, but the damage to the airline's reputation was instant and devastating. By evening, the CEO announced that trading had been halted. The airline's stock plummeted, wiping billions from its value. The very flight attendant who had smirked in triumph just hours before was now staring at unemployment, her decision having sparked a PR catastrophe. But the real story wasn't the collapse of a corporation, it was what happened in that terminal. Passengers who had been on the plane found Kennedy sitting quietly with a cup of black coffee. One by one, they approached him, apologizing, shaking his hand, thanking him for his calmness in the face of humiliation. An older man said, "Senator, when you walked off that plane with dignity, you reminded us what true leadership looks like." A young mother added, tears in her eyes, "My son saw how you handled it. You didn't yell, you didn't fight, you showed grace. That's the example kids need right now." Kennedy listened, nodded, and finally spoke softly, "Folks, this isn't about me, it's about all of us. When freedom becomes something you can be kicked off a plane for, then we're all in trouble. Don't be silent, don't give in to fear. Stand firm, but stand with grace. Because at the end of the day, character always outlasts cruelty." In the following days, the collapse of the airline became symbolic of something larger: the dangers of letting ideology replace decency. Millions watched the clips online, where Kennedy's quiet exit became a viral moment, replayed again and again as an example of moral courage. College students debated it in classrooms. Churches preached about it from pulpits. Even skeptics admitted, he could have lashed out, but he didn't. He showed respect, even when he wasn't given any. The flight attendant who had once mocked him issued a tearful apology on television. "I thought I was standing for justice," she confessed. "But I see now I was just silencing someone because I disagreed, and it destroyed not only my job but an entire airline. I was wrong." Kennedy never gloated, never sought vengeance. Instead, he offered forgiveness when asked, saying, "We've all made mistakes. The measure of a person isn't in their fault, but in their willingness to stand again with humility." By the time the dust settled, What began as humiliation had transformed into inspiration. Families across the country shared the story at dinner tables. Veterans nodded in approval. Young people posted clips saying, "This is how you handle hate out with courage, calm, and class." And so, the collapse of an airline became a rise of something greater, a reminder that freedom, respect, and decency are worth more than any company or ideology. As John Kennedy himself put it best in a speech weeks later, "You can cancel flights, you can cancel companies, but you cannot cancel truth, because truth, my friends, always finds a way to fly."